This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now.
Hey, welcome 24/7 Buff Pandemonium. Welcome Bills Mafia. This is Sunday Sessions with Scott, Swank, and Ryan. My name is Scott. I'll be the host for today's show. I'm the host of the other show too. That's weird. I'm the host. Yay! I'm also a co-host on the K-Gun Report with Swank and Jared. Tune in there every Tuesday at 8 p.m. We actually have a giveaway we'll talk a little bit about later. But beside me and below me are Swank and Ryan. Swank, we'll start with you. Talk to the fans. Tell them how they can find you.
Yo! Good morning, Mafia. We're going to the playoffs. You can find me at Twitter at Swank247BF. You can also find me producing this show and the K-Gun Report, as well as co-hosting. And, that's every Tuesday night, like Scotty said. Follow us over on Instagram, Facebook. We got these groups that are starting to grow here. And we were throwing around an idea of starting a Finger Lakes Mafia group as well. So do that. And we want to get, like, some local live events going on down in this area. So if you're out there and you want to hang and be at a bar and listen to a bunch of us scruffy guys, talking about the Buffalo Bills, you can come do it. Dude, I'm so glad you kept that all the way till today. My wife would have murdered me.
Newsflash, I'm keeping it for the playoffs.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. If we go to the Super Bowl, I'm never shaving one. Like, never shave it again. So.
There you go. Swank, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, the Finger Lakes, we're from around the Finger Lakes area, and we want to get the Finger Lakes more involved. I mean, Syracuse and Rochester and all that stuff, they're a throw stone away from us. We're not that far away, but we would love to get this area. It's a huge area, and there's a lot to offer with the wineries, the breweries, the lakes, all that good stuff. And we want to kind of get that area involved. So, hey, Finger Lakes Mafia, what's up? Ryan Thomas.
What's up, guys?
How you feeling?
I'm doing good. I'm
There you
feeling
go.
fantastic, feeling much, much better after last week. I was feeling a lot better actually after 2 weeks ago. But now I'm feeling very good. Wakey, eggs and bakey, wakey, right?
Oh, look at that. He's got a little
Right,
breakfast
right.
there. There you go. Do
Dude, what's that
not
from?
chew in the mic. Do not chew in the mic.
Oh,
Swank.
No, I won't.
Yeah, I
These eggs will get nuked in the microwave. I'll be professional. I know my role.
Dude, that's like my that incites like murderous rage in me. Jared found that out, unfortunately, one day.
Swank staring at him through the camera like this.
Don't do that.
Dude,
Ryan,
I eat
Ryan,
just
Ryan.
as much cold food as I do hot food. So it is what it is.
Right. You have your own little podcast going on there, don't you? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, I do. It is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. You can find it on any and all audio podcasting platforms as well. If you want to tune in visually, see the setup behind me here. I'm going to be adding much more to it. I got a lot of stuff over the Christmas holiday, Bills memorabilia. I know you guys dabble in that too. Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah.
So I got to have so I'm going to have some more stuff behind me. You can catch that on Facebook Live as well as my YouTube channel, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I got a lot of content on there. It's not just a Buffalo Bills show. It's a combat sports show, UFC, MMA, boxing, as well as baseball. There's not really a whole lot to talk about. Actually, there's a lot to talk about with baseball right now with some of the stuff that's going on with the strike. So I've been diving into that a little bit, as well as covering the Buffalo Sabres. These Sabres, man, they're looking better, but 5 straight losses. 4 out of the 5 straight losses are 1-goal losses. Mm-hmm. So it's been tough to kind of dive into those games as they've been a little bit painful to the heart. But you guys can find me on Twitter as well, at Ryan Thomas Take. All my tweets and stuff, rants, as we like to call it, will be on that Twitter feed. So check me out. Greatly appreciate the support. Love Bills Mafia. Looking forward to today's game at 4:25. How about
4:25, man, oh man, guys. They're playing at Orchard Park, Highmark Stadium. The 4 and 12, I think our Jets are coming and visiting our 10 and 6 Buffalo Bills. We did clinch the playoffs last week. Awesome. We all talk about how that's the next stage, that's the next season, and it's a completely different season, right? Right now they're asking 30 degrees, cold, rainy, and I think during the game time at 4 o'clock, I think the winds are going to pick up to 20 to 30 miles an hour, and the temperature is going to drop a little bit. So for those of you that are at the pregame right now, warm up. Drink a little more. Speaking of drinking, we call this Sunday Sessions. Why is that, Swank?
Because we crack our first beer this morning. Oh, what you got?
I got
you got a juice bomb, don't you? Nice.
Juice bomb. Cheers, Mafia. Cheers, Fandemonium. Cracking my first beer of the day, even though our game doesn't start till 4:25. Guys, real quick, I'm going to ask you about that 4:25 flex change. But I know, Ryan, you mentioned memorabilia. I do want to throw out there, we're partnered with Buffalo Autographs, buffaloautographs.com or Buffalo Autographs, a Facebook page, and they donated an Andre Reed helmet, a signed mini helmet that we're actually giving away.
Wow, very nice.
Giving it away on our show this Tuesday on the K-Gun Report. So I don't want people to forget about that. All you have to do is comment during a live stream and you're entered to win, right?
That's right. So
Awesome.
Come over, tell us that we suck, tell us that the Bills are amazing, tell us how pretty Ryan Thomas is, whatever you want to do on Tuesday, and you will automatically you'll automatically be entered to win that Andre Reed mini helmet with the COA, of course, signed. Andre Reed, friend of the show.
Yeah, he's been on.
Andre Reed, Uncle Andre to the Reed twins. But yeah, I wanted to say that I'm drinking coffee this morning because I'm starting to get this whole thing, and I'm hoping it's not like that little bubble with all the plungers sticking out of it, So I think it's just a head cold. So we're gonna ride with that. I think
the bubble with the plunger. Like, so guys, the NFL is doing me dirty because you know how I love that 1 o'clock football game, and I understand why. I mean, the AFC East champ, the AFC East trophy is up there waiting for us, and you know damn well they're not going to have both teams fighting for it play at different times, right? So my question is, why would they move it to 4:25 when all 4 teams that are playing are Eastern teams? Why wouldn't they switch the Patriots game to a 1 o'clock instead of the Bills game to 4:25?
That's a good point. I'm more surprised that they switched it at all, knowing that the Bills would have to play their starters, and if they won, the Patriots could rest their starters.
you would think that would be the advantage that they would give them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the tides are turning a little bit.
I guess I think like I want the Bills to play their starters regardless, and I think there's definitely something to play for today. So the only thing that bothers me about the time change is that it's later. And so now my routine's messed up. So I got in the shower this morning. I popped on WGR, and it was ESPN radio. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Don't you guys know it's game day? And then I was like, oh, yeah, it's 4:25. So, I mean, there's parts of me that like it. There's parts of me that don't, obviously. If it wasn't my division, my team, I do like it. I like that they're even in and out. They both got to play for what they want. It's exciting. It's a smart marketing move. Like, you know, I get that whole aspect of it. And just like last year, man, I mean, the Bills didn't sit their starters until the second half, into the second half. And I'm a firm believer of, like, keeping them fresh, keeping them going, rolling right into next weekend, and steamrolling all the way through to that Super Bowl.
Yes, remain hot, and that's the key, right? You are playing a wild card game, and God forbid you had that first week bye and you sat your players; they'd have half a month off.
Yeah.
We saw, I know Ryan, and I know you pay attention to all the other games. We saw the Eagles sit all their players yesterday, and of course Dallas was successful; they won. And just the praise Dallas was getting, oh my God, Dak Prescott 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns.
Against the backups.
Yeah, because he was playing the backups, guys. Jeez, it's almost, and they throw out a stat. In the last 4 games, he's thrown for 1,000 yards, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, that's 250 yards a game. Josh Allen does that every week.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, guys, this Jets football team's no joke. They're 4-12, yes, but they beat the Bengals. They beat the Titans. And what they did to the Buccaneers last week, you know, causing one of their players to retire and obviously frustrating Brady a little bit. There's a lot to be worried about, but there's some injuries. I know we like to go over the actives and inactives, and we're not going to see that till later today now.
Yeah. But
there's some injuries that the Bills should be happy about. I mean, hate to be happy, but there's 2 receivers that potentially were going to play, Barrios and the rookie there, Elijah Moore. Those guys yesterday were considered out. So they don't have any wide receivers as far as I'm concerned, and I think they're in a bit of danger, and I think Zach Wilson might have an issue after this week. So let's talk about this pregame. Let's talk about the Jets. I know they're coming to us a bit banged up. The record will show that too. And the Bills are riding hot, and we're gonna keep our players out there because we need to win the AFC East. Good, bad, ugly, anything. You know, your X factors, your bold predictions, your score predictions. Swank or Ryan. Let's start with Ryan. What do you think, bud? What are you thinking about this Jets team coming in?
You know, you mentioned it. This Jets team is a very stingy team. They have that mean streak. On occasion, they can show up for an opponent that is on paper better than them. Obviously, on paper better than them, because on paper, the Jets are without a doubt one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're a young team. They're a rebuilding team. It's no secret they have a new head coach. This is his first season with the Jets and Robert Saleh, but you do see that competitive mean streak where these players are playing for their coach. They're playing for their jobs as well, to audition to be on the team long term, because no team has had as much turnover year to year roster wise and coaching wise as last season's Jets to this year's Jets. So, you know, I've definitely looked at their team as a team that I'm not taking for granted. I'm not going into any matchup, you know, overlooking anybody. And this last one, they have the motivation behind them. They have, we're traveling to Orchard Park. We're going to be playing in some cold weather. We're playing the big bad Buffalo Bills, the team that, you know, they're viewed as one of the up and coming better teams in the NFL, especially in the AFC. And they have the opportunity to kind of spoil the party. And most teams that have that opportunity, they at least play much more disciplined than what they're accustomed to. And I have a feeling that that's what we could see today from the Jets in Buffalo's favor. You mentioned that, you know, Braxton Berrios is out, could possibly be out. Elijah Moore could be out. So there's a lot of players on this team that aren't necessarily expected to be at 100%, even if they are out there, which is obviously advantageous to Buffalo, but I still wouldn't overlook the opponent. And I feel like the Bills have a game today that they have to show up for, regardless as to what anyone thinks of the Jets on paper.
I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect that I think I mentioned it last week that the Bills are ending their regular season with 2 home games. And I'm just glad these home games aren't 40, 50-degree weather with the sun out and it's nice and dandy. I'm liking the fact that these two games have been rainy, windy with some with the cold. And I'm a big thing for acclimation. And anytime you can bring a team in that's either a dome team or a warm team to come and play for the playoffs in Buffalo, that's advantage Buffalo. And I'm sorry, fans out there that say, well, we got to win the game. We do have to win the games. We don't need any advantage. There's advantages everywhere. And if you're going to use the weather as one, you might as well. So I'm just a fan of the last two games being in this weather. And we finish off strong and we go into the playoffs next week. Swank, what are you thinking about these Jets? Jets, Jets.
I mean, I'm agreeing with what you guys are putting out. I like Saleh a lot. Like, I think he's got a lot of heart. He's one of those passionate coaches that, like, you like to root for. Obviously, we're not rooting for the Jets, but I think the interesting thing about this game is how many times have we been in this position in those 17 years where the only thing that we had to root for was spoiling somebody else's season. And right now we're the big dogs on top, you know. So you can't tell me that a defensive-minded head coach in his first year with a struggling team who's come close with Titans, beating those teams, which I'd like to say sidebar, like the Titans, we played them hard, right down to that last play. Tampa Bay, same deal. We took them right into overtime, last play, right? So there's a lot of parallels there, but I think that you're going to see a Jets team that's coming in, like Ryan's saying, playing for their jobs next year, whether it's in New York or not. They want to put everything on tape that they can possibly put in to have a job next year, to prove that it was a fluke, it was a one-year thing, it was a changeover, they're not a bad player. It's going to be all out. And, historically, between Salah and just the Jets' pedigree, they're a tough defensive team. So I wouldn't sleep on it. I want to see the Bills come out and execute all the things that they've been building up to in the last 2 weeks to now. I want to see a balanced game. I want to see a good amount of that run game. I'm wondering what's up with Bates. Is he in? Is he out? Are they going to not have him in? Because I think that lineup they had last week is perfect. That is what they should have been running with all season long, right? So I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested to see Motor continue his campaign to be the primary back in this backfield. I'm also really interested to see Josh Allen have a good game at home. We haven't seen that in a little bit, and I'd really like to see him put up, 300. I'd like to see him throw 300, 3 TDs. That'd be great. I don't need to see Josh Allen run anymore. Not this week. like I love what he did with his feet, but with last week and the way he put the team on his back, he's putting himself out there. Like it's what you love about him and what you're kind of like pensive about with him, where he puts the whole team on his back. Like, God, I threw those 3 picks, and 2 of them were tipped. Whatever, he still threw them, But you can see with him, it's like, I got to put the team on my back. I got to make up for all this. And it's like a couple of those runs, you're like, yeah. And then you're getting further into it, and you're like, okay, man, like, you made up for it. Everything's cool. Like, we're winning. Don't get yourself knocked out right before the playoffs or banged up, That was kind of some of the thing that hurt us last year, right, was the team that was roughed up and didn't have enough depth to push all the way through to the end of the playoffs. So I think we just got to play smart football. Smart football. Get this division locked up and get ready to host a playoff game next week, man.
I agree 100%. Swank, there's a fine line between, and I hear what you're saying. You got to keep the foot on the gas. That's the only way you can ride into the playoffs and remain hot in the playoffs. But there's a fine line between keeping your foot on the gas and keeping your quarterback and the players healthy going into the playoffs when you've already got a playoff spot clinched. I can see the same thing happening. I would like Dable to call a more responsible football game. And again, that's going back to what they did last week. Show these teams that you're going to meet in the next couple of weeks that you can run the ball and you're not afraid to. Yep. Because that opens up, that gives Josh more time than you see him have a lot of times. That gives Josh Allen in the pass game and the route runners a lot more wide open spaces, because now the defense has to be aware of this run, and they can't just pin their ears back and go after the quarterback anymore. They got to play a little more strategic and play the run, which will help Josh out and wide receivers and tight ends out big time. Real quick, Brent Thomas, and there is a difference between a Fu Manchu and a porn mustache. This is a Fu Manchu. Okay, I know you said porn mustache. It could be.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
One quick question. So, when you filled in for Jalen Hurts yesterday and you threw that first pass that got tipped, but it was a completion, like, how did you feel as an NFL quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles at that moment?
I completed a pass that was tipped. You know, I felt great. But did he have a quote? Did he have a quote did I miss a quote that he may have said?
No, you just look like Minshew.
Oh, okay.
When we shaved him, and mine was dangling down, and you guys probably saw the picture or whatever. We're on the show. I sent it to the band, and I was like that scene in Office Space where his neighbor who's got the Fu Manchu, he was like, "Hey man, so what would you do if you had $1 million?" And he's like, "Man, if I had $1 million, man, I'd probably do 2 chicks at the same time." So I just text that to everybody in the band.
With your picture, obviously,
right?
Oh,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So guys, I mean, the Jets, you're right, Ryan, they could be nasty. They come in with a nasty attitude. Salah's got that mentality going on there. And it's a game where, you know, they're coming in hot because Wilson doesn't have a lot of games under his belt, right? He was hurt quite a bit this season. And the best way to protect your quarterback, your franchise rookie quarterback, the best way to get film for next year is to play him, obviously, is to call the correct aggressive play calls. And it's to test them against the number 1 defense in the league. You know what I mean? So they're going to get a good test. The Buffalo Bills are going to get a good test from this offense, trying to establish, hey, let's see what this guy can do against the number 1 defense in the league. And this defense is still trying. Well, speaking of number 1 defense in the league, I put a poll out earlier this week on Twitter and on Facebook. You know, and we've said it, we're frustrated. We have the number 1 defense in passing, significantly different. And we didn't get anybody voted into the Pro Bowl. My question, guys, was who do you believe is the Bills' defensive MVP this year? I put out Poyer, Hyde, Phillips, Edmonds, Milano. I mean, we have a lot to choose from because the Bills' defense was so stellar. I want to know who you guys believe should be our defensive player this year.
Man, yeah. That's a tough one. I've been thinking about it since you put it out.
I think I've got mine, and I got the I don't know if it's an honorable mention or like comeback. It's not quite comeback player, but I think my defensive MVP's got to be Poyer. He's playing lights out, best game of his career, like snubbed all over town. What my hope is that we do make it all the way to the big stage here, and that all these media members have to eat crow because that kid didn't get voted into the Pro Bowl, and you got Josh Allen, who's probably going to miss out on the MVP and didn't got second alternate Pro Bowl nod, and I want them both up there hoisting that Lombardi with their middle finger in the air, man. Like, that's my dream. But Jordan Poyer, man, for sure. I love his game. I loved his game before he came here. And you know how I feel about the Browns. But he's just a passionate dude, and you know, his story is amazing. He's just embraced Buffalo. It's just great. The other guy that I think needs to get a nod in whatever capacity that you want to try and say is Harrison Phillips, dude. I mean, and I think that you could go across that line and you could probably pick a couple other guys too, but Harrison Phillips has come into this season with the biggest chip on his shoulder, and he just grinds and he gets his opportunities, and he is playing the best ball of his career this season. And I mean, what is this, his 4th year?
Yep,
you know,
4th year.
For somebody to peak at that point with limited opportunities, and then, you know, by the grace of whatever, Star Lotulelei does Star Lotulelei things, and now he's in there getting the reps and showing that he is dominant in the running game, and he is dominant on that line, and coming in hot at exactly the right time. I mean, he deserves recognition, however that is, whatever that's framed him. He definitely deserves a shout out. I really hope, to your point about Zach Wilson today, they run the ball heavy. I want the Jets to run it. And I just want that line to get the reps, because you're going into a postseason where now Derrick Henry is healthy. You got the Colts out there. You got some really heavyweight guys that run the ball hard. And I think that line, that defense in general, can get all the reps at stopping the run that they can possibly pile up. They need it right now. So that's it. Poyer and Phillips.
Swank, I'm going to go off the whole Phillips thing here in just a second. But Ryan, did you think of anybody yet for your defensive MVP?
I did. To play devil's advocate, obviously, I think, Jordan Poyer definitely belongs in the conversation, and I think he's a more than suitable choice. But just to kind of offer some different examples, I think a player that has been a very solid free agent signing since he signed here in Buffalo was Micah Hyde. I remember when Micah Hyde was signed by the Bills. I was actually in this pizza place called Avanti's out in Medina with my dad, and I had heard that they signed him, and I realized that he was Micah Hyde, Green Bay Packer, and I thought, that's a guy that you build a defense around, as far as the leadership, the discipline, the type of mentality that he has to just compete. And essentially, and it sounds cheesy, but that guy's a warrior. Like he loves to cover. He can cover, he's willing to cover pretty much anybody, but he also likes to kind of get close to the line too. We've seen him, bring down a running back a time or two, more than a time or two. So Micah Hyde to me is in tandem, of course, with Poyer, is a very valuable asset on this team and a most valuable player. Obviously, if Trey White was healthy and had stayed healthy the whole year, I think Trey White would be the lock for this, but that didn't happen.
Hey, he was putting up the MVP numbers as it was.
Right, as it was. So, I want to throw that out there to him. It's unfortunate. Hoping for, of course, a speedy recovery for him. But a guy that really has jumped out at me this year that, I really demanded that he's just simply step up this year post last season was Ed Oliver. We didn't really see a lot from him his first couple of years as a Bill. Nothing that would say, hey, this guy's a top 10 worthy pick. Not to say that he was a bust at that time, but we just needed to see more. And I think I've seen more than enough to say that he is a legitimate physical freak at the defensive tackle position. As far as his run defense, he's probably one of our best, if not our best, run defensive lineman. And as you mentioned, Starr hasn't really been out there a whole lot. Harrison Phillips, I feel like, is finally healthy. So now we have a finally healthy Harrison Phillips and a more than willing Ed Oliver. And that's why we're starting to see, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but crazy to say, I think this Bills team is peaking at the right time, peaking at the perfect time heading into the playoffs. And, we talk about all these teams that are in the AFC, the Titans, the Colts, that are in the playoffs, the Bengals. Which team is the most dangerous? I think we could beat pretty much any of them if we stacked the best version of the Buffalo Bills against any of these teams. I think we got them beat. We just have to show up. We are our own worst enemy when we have lost this year. It's not because the other team was better or anything like that. It might be a coaching moment where we were out coached, out game planned. But I think we could beat anybody on any given day.
Well, thank you for bringing up Ed Oliver. It's almost like we've discussed this, and we really haven't, guys. There's no script. There's nothing. Ed Oliver's game, I believe, Ryan and Swank, is where it is now because of my defensive MVP, my comeback player of the year, you could call him, my, Peyton Manning award-winning guy of the year. He's fourth place right now. Harrison Phillips. Break down the numbers with him, guys. Not only is he taking the double teams that Latulier was taking and all that stuff, and he's representing, getting tackles in the backfield, tackling the running backs, creating pressures on the quarterback. We had that fumble last week and that sack last week. The guy's only played 54% of the snaps. He's only out there half the time. He's got 50 tackles. That's getting it. That's getting it. You get him out there the same amount of – I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald, but you get him out there the same as a lot of these other defensive tackles at 75, 80%. He's one of the leading tacklers and defensive tackles in the NFL. This guy does it all. And the fact that he was this close from not making a team with Zimmer coming up in the ranks, Latulier, Vernon Butler. We were talking preseason that he may be a casualty, a depth chart casualty just because of the talent the Buffalo Bills have. Man, his opportunity to come up for him, and he's making the most of it. And he is Swank said it on the Kagan report. His level-headedness, his calmness is the perfect matchup for Ed Oliver. With Ed Oliver's hot-headedness and all that stuff, his just crazy hyper mentality. You've got Phillips right there next to him, calming him down, and the two are starting to complement each other so well. When one's got the double team, the other one's getting the tackle in the backfield, and vice versa. This defensive line, I think we have invested a lot of draft in this defensive line, and I think it's all coming together at the perfect time. And when we saw Ed Oliver in the draft, his highlights, everybody wanted him. They wanted the Ed Oliver that we had in college. We weren't going to get that because it's college. It's finally all coming together. And this is going to be an exciting defensive line to watch. And Swank, to what you were saying, I would like the Jets to run a little bit because I think it'd be good for that defensive line with how good they're doing to hone in their run defensive skills before we play these run heavy teams. I think that'd be awesome.
I agree with that assessment too. Not to cut you off there, Swank, but no. the Jets will run the football today. Yeah. I mean, that's a fact. I one of the best players, I think, the brightest talent on that team is not Zach Wilson. I think it's Michael Carter. He is a very good running back. I won't say by any stretch he's elite yet. He's a rookie, but for a rookie back to get the workload that he has had and to be as successful as he has been with a very young group around him. The whole team is young. The offensive line is young. The defense is young. Positions across the board are young on that team, and Michael Carter has made the most of it. In terms of what you said too about Harrison Phillips, I hate to look ahead to next year. We're still, with the playoffs haven't even started yet, but just based on what Harrison Phillips has provided this team these last few weeks, healthier than he's ever been, hammering that point home. This guy battled ACL injuries. He had shoulder issues. He had a bunch of problems, ankle issues over the early course of his career here. I'd be more than willing to move on from Star based on the fact that he has no availability to this team. It's too inconsistent. And obviously the price tag, he restructured his contract a little bit, but you're more willing to move on from a player like Star when Harrison Phillips is actually playing at that high level and is remaining available and healthy week after week after week, finally, after the injuries that he's accrued, early in his career. But that's behind him. And I think they could honestly look forward to the fact that, Harrison Phillips really turned it on for us this year towards the tail end. And we feel fully comfortable kind of leaving that alone with Ed Oliver and Harrison Phillips getting more of a snap count than what Harrison Phillips has had, as you mentioned, 54%. He's doing what he's doing at 54%. God knows what he could do at 75, 80%. That could dramatically help the run defense numbers that have been not that great for this Bills defense, despite being the number one pass coverage defense in the league. The run defense has been a little bit inconsistent depending on the matchup.
And you know what? If they take this all the way into the playoffs, I wouldn't doubt at all that you would see the snap count come up as far as rotation goes with Ed Oliver and Phillips next year. And let's remember, Zimmer's coming back and all this stuff. So Lutoulier might be a cap casualty for sure. So, what were we thinking?
I think that what we're seeing right now is Brandon Beane and McDermott's all these guys that they invested in that had great physical characteristics, projects, all these dudes. They're starting to get it. They're starting to fall into those pieces. And I think we saw that heavy rotation with the veterans and all that stuff from the beginning of McDermott's era here. We saw all that to keep everything fresh, teach the new kids, all that. Now you're starting to see it wade into okay, now we figured out who's falling in line, who actually could provide us with the best chance to get pressure in whatever situation, to stop the run, to do X, Y, Z. And this should put Bills fans, I think, at ease that this plan is working. So when you got people like Epinesa, who's coming up and starting to kind of get into his own, you got people like Groot, who missed the season but has all these physical characteristics, has shined in the right moments, is great against the run. You can rest easy knowing that the process is working. Somebody like Ed Oliver, he wasn't a raw talent, but he had to figure out how to play in the NFL. And dipping his toe in and getting him comfortable allowed him to get to where he is right now. And I think the same is true for Harry. You got two guys that are young that after 3 and 4 years in the NFL are really starting to click and get into their groove. right at the right time where these older guys, Starr, Jerry, Addison, whoever, they're starting to age out, and it's just like this perfect tide, right? Where now these new kids have finally gotten it and hopefully continue to get it and can perform at a high level. So my prediction, I guess, for next year is that you won't see like as heavy of a rotation, like you were saying, Scott. I think that these guys are going to become more solid fixtures in the interior of the line at least. And hopefully in the next couple years, you see Epinesa, Phillips, Oliver, Groot, and that's the line, That's what I want. So.
Swank, I love that you brought up the Bean thing. A lot of people think trust the process. They trust the athleticism. They trust the athlete that we're bringing to the team. The reason all this stuff is able to fall into place and take time is because you're bringing in players that have it up here, that have the mentality thinking, I'm not going to come in and be a star. I'm okay rotating. And you know what else? I trust the process so much that I will take a couple years to finally get into the mold that they want me to get into. Let's not forget that Epinesa used to be 285 pounds. Now he's 260 something. So these guys are bringing in players that not only are athletic and fit the position, but they're bringing them in an understanding that I have a process, and this is a process that's going to take maybe 1 or 2 years, but when it comes together, it's going to be glorious.
It's the buy-in, right? Like
Yep.
you're so committed to what they're doing that you are willing to physically change your body type to get more into character to play the role they need you to play to make the whole defense better. And to get a young kid to commit to that, I love whatever Beyond the Blue and Red or whatever the hell the what was it? The like Hard Knocks thing that the Bills were doing for a couple of years.
They did Bills Embedded, and then they said Beyond. They did Embedded? Beyond Blue and Red too.
Yeah. So I think it was the Embedded when the year that Epinesa got drafted, and they had parts of his interview with the coaches in there, and just the way he spoke about like they showed him a play he blew up, like that was like he wasn't in the right spot, whatever, and they're like, what happened here? And he dogged himself and was just like, I wasn't here and here and here. And in retrospect, I watched this play XYZ times, and I should have been here, and I should have squared up, and blah, blah. And he understood the game and where he should have been. And in the moment, he wasn't in the right spot. And it was almost like he wasn't embarrassed, but he was like, I know what I can do to fix that, so don't put that against me. Like, that's not a demerit. I know where I need to be, and the next time I'll be there, And just seeing that kind of like confidence and passion and understanding of the game made me be like, man, I'm 100% in for this guy. Like, he to some people was a long shot, but like I think that he's gonna he's got to hit his stride. I think next year, if you're looking at that timeline, like the same Ed Oliver kind of timeline, kid's gonna hit his stride, and then he's gonna wreak havoc in the backfield.
Remember, Ed Oliver's timeline hit when we were playing in Houston in a wild card game. Guess what's next week? A wild card game.
Time. I remember when these guys were, picked. It was obviously not that long ago with Rousseau, especially, and Epinesa and Ed Oliver, and all of these colleges that they played for, whether it was Iowa or Miami, the college that Ed Oliver played for isn't coming to me. Was it Houston?
Houston. Yep.
Houston. Yep. So all these colleges, they heavily relied on like a solid front four, and Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane said, well, these colleges are relying on this front four just like we are going to, just like we have in terms of creating pressure. We know that that's what we need to do. We haven't really been able to accomplish that because, to Swank's point, we do have some aging defensive linemen with Hughes, with Addison. There's not, the cupboard's kind of getting expired, I guess you could say. You got to get those cans out, put some fresh ones in. Yeah, rotate the stock.
The bank account will be bigger next year, though.
Yes, that's for sure. But yeah, I think that they were able to bring in guys that understood what they need to do because they've done it before. When they were 17, 18 recruited into these colleges, they were on a program that said, hey, from 18 to 21, you're going to do this, 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 and that. And then when you get drafted, you'll be ready to do this, 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 and that again as you grow into your body. And I think that's a part of this that not a lot of people understand. And sometimes I catch myself not understanding it as well, admittedly. So with guys like Tremaine Edmonds, who, yeah, we'll play the young card with him because he was drafted at 19 and he's 23 years old and he's playing a very, very important position on this defense, albeit he might not even be fully grown into his full athletic prime yet. Typically that doesn't happen until you're 25, 26, 27, 28. You're on the wrong side of 30 in the NFL 40. At certain positions. Yeah, I mean, throw that out there too for some. But no, I think that they have a really solid nucleus of players that it's going to actually change the identity of this team in the long run. Right now the identity of the team is their offense and how high powered they can be, passing the football. And their pass defense is really good too. But eventually this front seven, it's going to be very scary, very scary. And look out AFC. That's something that I would be fearful of if I was, the Bengals or the Colts or the Patriots, not necessarily the other way around.
Yeah.
I mean, look how young Trey White is. Tremaine Edmonds is. Milano, Russo. All our whole defense, the number one ranked defense in the league, is very young. Very young. And, like you were saying, Ryan, Tremaine Edmonds still may have a little bit to grow. And I think we've had a guest on our show, Mark Maddox, ex-Buffalo Bill player. I think he knows what he's talking about. He also said the same exact thing. This guy, when he gets stronger, a little older and wiser, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I agree with both of you. Guys, we're going to get to the score, bold, and X factors real quick, but I did put out another poll this week that talked about our secondary. We have, in my mind, had a good sample size as far as how our defensive backs are holding up without Trey White. He went down Thanksgiving. We were all devastated. I'm sure many of us thought, there it goes. There goes our season. We lost our number one player. But Dane Jackson, Taron Johnson, Levi Wall, Sarah Neal, Poyer, Hyde, those guys have not lost a step. We've had 6 games, and we are still ranked number one. 90% came out that our Mafia believes they're still confident in going into the playoffs with this secondary, which is about the number I expected. I expected 1 out of 10. Because people still, they want to see more, and they also want to see some of these more high potent offenses to face. But these guys, in my mind, have looked impressive. The corners are learning to turn their head, locate the guy, turn the head, locate the ball. You're seeing less pass interference calls on these guys. And Poyer and Hyde still haven't let the ball drop in anybody's hands past the 45-yard pass. So our defensive backfield is looking amazing, even without Trey White. And this has got to build confidence. Again, we hate to talk about next year, but this is only going to look good for the Buffalo Bills. How are you guys feeling about our secondary post-Thanksgiving Trey White injury?
Well, Scott, I think it was me. I'm pretty sure it was me. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn,
it was probably
but
me.
I remember toot. I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but when Trey White went down, obviously the first thing that I heard that I thought was, oh man, I hope he's not out for the year. Then you wait, you hear the news, he's out for the year. Okay, this sucks. I love Trey White. Heal up soon. Get ready for next year because our window is wide open, right? But then I think to myself, what an opportunity for Dane Jackson, for Levi Wallace, for Taron Johnson, who you want to talk about underrated in terms of underrated players and what he brings to this defense, which is not the, easiest defense to master. It's a very complex defense. Not many teams can really successfully run a nickel style defense like Buffalo does with him playing in that role, especially as a run stuffing nickel corner. I mean, not what team has that? Not many teams have that. It doesn't even make sense saying it. So when I look at, Trey White going down, it provided this massive opportunity for these guys to step up and for the Buffalo Bills to know what they have. Because when Trey White was out there, Trey White's out there. I mean, no one's taking his spot. No one's going to take his side of the field. You have an opportunity to actually see what you have or what you don't have. And come to find out, I don't think any of these guys are bad football players. I think all of these guys bring a lot to the table. And you want to talk about what we were just, going back to with the future of the front seven, the future of the secondary, which is seen already as the best piece of this defense, is actually in really good hands. Levi Wallace has come a long way. He's played his best football this year. Teron Johnson's one of the most underrated players. And I think Dane Jackson was one of the best late round picks that the Bills have had in recent memory. So as far as a surefire tackling corner, that's the guy that I'd want out there on the field outside of Trey White. So hey, it's unfortunate Trey White's out. He's probably one of the best players on this team outside of Josh Allen, but it is what it is. And it provided next man up, next opportunity, and a big opportunity for these guys to show what they're capable of, and an opportunity for the Bills to see it firsthand.
And you talk about the corners, his teammate there that they drafted this year, Jamar Hamlin, he's impressive at safety, and so is Jaquan Johnson from Miami. He's been there a couple of years, special teams ace, but he was a ball hawk in Miami, and the Bills love that about him. So our secondary, playing hard, getting up there in age, but they're young backups that are getting some key roles. Swank, how you feel about our secondary, my friend?
I think everybody's got to remember where we're at in the preseason here and in training camp when we were talking about Dane Jackson possibly taking over that number 2 CB position, right? So you had Levi Wallace, who's been one of those guys who has been dogged, who I think has been undervalued, disrespected, and also wasn't like the most stout CB2 in the whole NFL, but has definitely grown and learned. And you had him fighting for his life against this second-year player that we were all very excited about, just off the few touches and plays that he'd gotten, right? That competition that the front office keeps pushing, how it breeds excellence. This is exactly where this comes into play. You got 2 guys whose numbers got called up, one of them who doesn't get a lot of field time, and another one who's had to fight for everything he's got, and nothing has changed. Like, nothing has changed since Trey White's been out, to me. You want to talk about like a high-powered offense that they've gone against? The Bucs. They held their own as best as any team has in the NFL, I think, against the Buccaneers. Minus the Saints, if you want to count whatever the hell that was. But
especially in the second half.
Yeah, second half, man, turned it around. Right. The adjustments,
shut it down.
Yeah, so it's like I think that this again speaks volume to the depth of their team. It speaks volume to the way that the process has helped these players reach for it, man, and go for it. Dane Jackson is doing, like, he had those first couple games where he was handsy. He was getting calls. They were targeting him. We knew that was going to happen. He's cleaned his game up immensely. Levi Wallace, now he's, like, got the spotlight on him. He had some bad calls. He had some bogus calls, too, like the taunt and whatever, a couple PI calls that I didn't think were PI, but whatever. Ever since then, man, he's just all business. He was mic'd up for the game 2 weeks ago, and you listen to that. Like, he's a pro, man. He's 100% a pro. There's no John. There's no craziness. He's just focused on every single play. And guess they're avoiding him now.
Yep.
So it's fantastic. I love it. I love that Dane Jackson is stepping up. I was really rooting for him, and I think he's coming through, and he's going to develop into a nice player. I think the interesting thing now is going to be with these injuries and stuff, what are we going to do in the draft? Everybody wants a CB2, but what about now? Everybody wanted one up till Thanksgiving, but now you got some guys that you didn't invest a whole lot into, that can do the job. So do you go for that and like waste a pick on it, or do you go somewhere else? I'll
make your decision easy, Swank. The Bills are in a position now where they can draft for depth.
Yeah,
they don't have to draft for start.
They could pick anybody outside of obviously a quarter. You're not picking a quarterback in the first round. We know that for heaven's sake. But to your question too, Swank, I'll answer it for you. I want to turn the Bills in this offseason into just a very physical offense, and the only way to do that that's left is to get just some massive guards, massive, strong, physical guards. That's what I want. I want to have a phase of this offense that brings my dad back to his childhood. That's what I want. Not to say that the Bills are going to be 2022's, run first offense, but you have to have that. You have to have that as a choice when it's needed. And we haven't these last few years. So if I was just to answer that question, I would say, like, let's get some guards. Let's maybe get another tight end that could, block and provide Knox another solid alternative. I like Sweeney, but I think that's an option too, to, add to that position. So there's a lot of options. And like Scott said, it's all depth based.
Mm-hmm.
So just adding some bodies on certain units.
You're talking about a front office that went 1-2 with the D line last year. So I wouldn't mind if they did that again this year.
You guys are reading my paperwork here. You guys are reading my paperwork.
Guard, tackle and guard.
My first 3-round picks for next year, and 24/7 Buff Pandemonium Mafia. Pay attention to our little live streams here, because we do a draft show and all that stuff. We love draft time, free agency time. But I'm gonna call it now, guys. We did go defensive end, right? Our first 3 picks are gonna be interior offensive line and a corner. Those are going to be our first 3 picks this year.
I like it.
I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be against it at all. Maybe they could do, interior offensive linemen, and maybe they bring in a safety. I mean, there's options. And I mean, I wouldn't be against really any of them as far as just building depth, like you said, Scott, and trying to make the team just more of a complete team heading into next year. But let's backpedal here. I think this is a team that is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I call me crazy. When they show up at their best, I think they can beat anybody. So throwing that out there.
Well, it's just like what you were saying earlier, man. Like, they've beat themselves. Like, that's all it is. Mm-hmm. It's I think it's Josh getting in his head. I think not going through the reads. I think play calling on Dable's end. There's a lot of that stuff. And then maybe late adjustments. I think that run game stuff is just it's like the Hail Marys were. I think that is just like something that's in that defensive's head, like, and until they get to a point where they can stop a guy cold that they should stop cold, it's going to be there. You're always going to, like, as soon as like one guy breaks a 20-yard run, it's like, oh, there they are. You know what I mean? That's like the common like perception. And I think as soon as you get against Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry, which like 2 years ago when we played Derrick Henry, we held him to 60 yards. So there's like, those guys are there. That's there. It can happen. They just need to do it to prove it. Just like in the Colts playoff game last year, when Rivers tried to do that Hail Mary to screw with everybody, and it didn't work. They swatted it down. It was over. Killed the beast. So
Hyde floated in the air, that one. Guys, real quick, we're gonna do score predictions, bold predictions, and X factors. What this is basically score prediction, self-explanatory. Bold prediction is give us a crazy stat, and X factor is what do you think the key to the game is? A position, a player, a coach, or whatever. Fandemonium, let us know what you think. Okay, Swank, you want to start with that?
Brett Thomas said it was weird to see me drinking water. I agree, it's weird to be drinking water. So my score prediction, I was joking around with my wife last night when the score for the Cowboys game got out of control and it was like 42-20, and I was like, this is the score I want for tomorrow's game minus the 2 on that 20. And then it got to 50, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not predicting a shutout, but I am going to say this is a game that I want them to just come out and do it up. I want to see 35 in the first half and Mitch coming in the fourth quarter. That's what I want. So I'm going to say that we're going to go with 45-10 Buffalo Bills. Stomp out Zach Wilson and them goddamn Jersey Jets. My bold prediction is going to be that the balance of the offense is going to be amazing, and we're going to have Josh 300 plus for 3 TDs. We're also going to have Motor with another consecutive 100-yard rushing yard game, right? 100 rushing yard game, yeah. And my X factor for this game is going to be that interior line, man. And I think that our boy, Mr. Edward Oliver, is going to have 2 sacks on Zachy Wills.
A little Zachy Will.
A little Zachy Wills.
All right, solid game for you, Swank. Solid game. What up, Brian?
All right, so I'm actually going to go bold prediction first because it ties into my score prediction. Okay. Bold prediction is that the New York Jets don't even score a touchdown today. That doesn't mean that they're not going to put points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the score prediction for today's game, 35-3.
Ooh,
Buffalo.
I like it.
A big one-sided ass whooping with the Buffalo Bills swinging the hammer. That doesn't mean the Jets won't have their moments where maybe they get a few, nice plays and they get into, the red zone and try to go for it and go for broke. And, they don't really have much to play for beyond this game. But I just think this Buffalo Bills defense is actually pretty ticked off, and rightfully so, that they have been just kind of scoffed at by everybody in the media, by everybody in the NFL, as far as being an elite unit. And this is the perfect opponent to end the regular season and go into the playoffs to just show what you're capable of defensively, to show that you are that solid defense. And I think it's going to be 35-3. I think the Bills defense is going to really shut it down today. And I think defensively, to Swank's point, that defensive line is something to keep your eyes out on. I think today we will see a collective contribution from Rousseau, Harrison Phillips, and Ed Oliver. I think all three of those guys, as well as Epinesa, four of those guys, they're all going to show glimpses in this game that'll make people really excited about their futures with the Bills and kind of bring us back to reality that we do have a great front four for the future. And I think this is going to be a great game, fun game to watch for Bills fans.
Hell yeah.
Yep, guys, right now the spread is 16 points. I think the over and under is 41.5. And Ryan, you didn't hit that over and under. You're under it. So Swank's got it just with the Bills score. Guys, I'm kind of on board with both of you. I think with the absence now of Berrios and Elijah Moore, I think that offense is going to be struggling. They've become one-dimensional with Michael Carter as a running back, I believe. And with that rookie quarterback back there, I think Frazier is going to have a field day. I'm going 42-0. It changed from the K-Gun report, but I didn't know about these wide receiver injuries. My bold prediction, I think we're going to get 6 sacks, and I think 2 of them are going to come from Taron Johnson. Going back to that whole Zach Wilson, Frazier bringing pressure thing. We tend to see the edge rush with the corners a little more often when we have a younger quarterback we're facing. So look at Taron Johnson's getting home twice. And we had a discussion about the defensive line today, and rightfully so. They're coming into their own. We have 2 players that are definitely growing fast, and they're exciting to watch. I am telling them, Fandemonium and Mafia, I'm just suggesting it. Pay attention to that defensive line today. A lot of guys go into games just watching the game as a whole. We like to tend to focus on a few things every once in a while. Of course, we watch the game as a whole, but just watch that defensive line and watch how they mesh, watch how their stunts are being played, and you will find out that this defensive line is no joke for a bunch of upcoming years. No, but it's exciting. Game time weather's 25. Actually, it dropped to 25 degrees, guys. Windy, rainy, and it's perfect weather, I think, for Buffalo Bills football. Do any of you guys have closing thoughts for today?
My closing thoughts. Oh, yep. Sorry. My closing thoughts for today, of course, I appreciate you guys having me on the show every week. It's been a true treat coming on to Sunday sessions with you guys as well. What a season this has been. I mean, I think it's safe to say going into this season, we thought maybe the Bills could get like 13, 14 wins. Didn't happen. We lost some games we shouldn't have lost. But I think the journey of this season is actually pretty poetic because, as I mentioned earlier, I think this team is trending upward at the perfect time heading into the playoffs. Seeds don't mean squat. The Tennessee Titans could be the number 1 seed with a first-round bye. They're probably the worst 1 seed that the AFC has had in a long, long time. I have no fear of them. I have no fear of the one-dimensional Colts. I think the Bengals, while young and pretty fun to watch, I don't know if they're quite a full team. There's no team in this AFC that brings me fear, and yes, that includes the New England Patriots. I want the Ali Frazier Part 3 matchup in the playoffs. It's the matchup. If I were to pick a matchup, that's the one I want. I want to shut up Dan Orlovsky talking about Mac Jones instead of Josh Allen. I want to shut up CBS Sports talking about Bill Belichick and how great the Patriots are. I want that matchup badly. I want Buffalo to run through the Jets today, 35-3. Bring on the Patriots. Show us what you got.
Hell yeah.
And that's a very good possibility, guys. Right now, Chiefs ruined it for us yesterday in regards to getting the 2nd seed. But if the Bengals lose to the Browns today and we win, we will take over that third seed, which will open up an opportunity for the Patriot game because we still have some teams, 3 or 4 teams that could sneak into that 7th spot. But no, that would be fun. That would be a fun matchup. Swank!
Yeah, let's clinch it. Let's clinch it today, man. I'm done. I agree with everything. I mean, Ryan Thomas just got me all pumped up, and I don't feel very well, so that's awesome. That's what
I pumped myself up too.
Dude,
I was going to tell him to simmer down a little bit. There's this is a PG-13 show, man. What the hell?
I was saying the same thing, man, because I want it all. I mean, we swept them last year. This year, we made Mac look like a dummy when he didn't play in crazy wind. And now the thing that's left for me is beating Belichick in the playoffs after everybody's fanboying him all season. Like, that would just be, oh, God, the frosting, man. Just all frosting. So, I agree, man. I'm not scared of anybody in this AFC. I think they all have flashes. The media's a bunch of homer idiots. I wouldn't listen to anything most people have to say. And this team is built differently. To your point about the Bengals, yeah, they are very fun to watch. I think that Burrow doesn't have the experience in the postseason to rely on yet. He's a little like, as fun as he is and as good of a quarterback as I think he's going to be for a long time. I think he's got to cut his teeth and earn it. You know, I don't think that it's going to project him too far into the playoffs. And especially, I think their defense is a little suspect too. So if it got to a point where the Bills were into a shootout with them, I don't think that they'd be able to hang. But this is the fun part about the playoffs and being in the playoffs, because we can actually have this kind of conversation where in 17 years we could not. So appreciate every single moment that you have right now. Root for the Bills to completely smoke the Jets just like you do every single year. And go Bills, man. You can hang out with us every Sunday, 11:30 a.m. with Scott, Ryan, and myself for 24/7 Fandemonium Presents Sunday Sessions. You can also hang with us Tuesdays, 8 p.m. for the K-Gun Report, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And next week, no, not next week. Well, yeah, kind of next week. A couple days from now, 2 days from now at the K-Gun, you could win yourself an Andre Reed signed COA helmet from BuffaloAutographs.com. And, you know, you got all that Christmas money. Go spend all your money on over there anyway, because Ryan's a really good guy, and we love you. Go Bill!
Go Bill! Thanks for bringing that up. Buffalo Autographs, www.buffaloautographs.com. Wonderful sponsor, and they're a wonderful memorabilia page. They're competitive, they're honest, they're awesome, and he works with you. Ryan Hickman over there works with you. If you need to, if you want something really bad to get a piece of Buffalo Bills history, the man will work for you, which is wonderful. Guys, I quick want to throw out the playoff situation. Bills win, we win the AFC East. Bills lose, Patriots lose, we win the AFC East. Either way, we're in the playoffs. We could potentially be the 7th seed. We can move all the way up. The highest we can go is the 3rd seed. The game to watch today would be the Cleveland Brown Bengals game at 1 o'clock. Go Browns, even though we hate to say that. And then the rest is history after today. Let's win the AFC East, guys. We haven't done it at home in front of our Mafia since 1995 when the Bills did it against the Miami Dolphins. I saw some highlights earlier today, and it was Thurman Thomas running in for 2 touchdowns. That was exciting, man. Those days were, man, those were the fun days. You guys are too young to remember.
Hey, we're in them right now, man. We're getting in the fun days right now, buddy.
And guys, I got a piece of trivia for you too. You mentioned the last time they won it was in, the last time they won it at home was in 1995. The last time they won it 2 years in a row, 89 and 90.
Ooh.
Crazy, huh? Crazy. Because you got to remember, too, when they went to those 4 Super Bowls, they had some wild cards. There was one wild card game they called the greatest comeback. I don't know much about it, though.
There's that one, right? There's that one. Yeah. And then the one in 88.
That one game.
Everybody was there. It's like 400,000 people in that stadium, as I recall.
Oh, man.
10 million people were at that stadium.
And nobody left. Nobody left.
No one left.
But guys, I'm telling you, everything is fitting so awesome right now. We're finishing the last 2 games off at Highmark. We have a chance to win the AFC East today, the last game of the season, in front of our home crowd. Guys, it's a 4:25 game. Relax for the day. Enjoy the 4 hours. Thank you, NFL, for changing it for 4 hours, 3.5 hours for me. But enjoy the ride. No matter what happens after today, we're talking about it on the K-Gun Report on Tuesday, and we're going to be talking playoff football. We're in the playoffs. Kick back, throw your feet up, have a beer, sit while you're waiting, listen to the show or the K-Gun Report, and join us on our game thread. We're going to have it up at 4:00. We like to have a little conversation during the game back and forth. Loving it, guys. Let's go clinch the AFC East. Go Bills. And hey, guys, it was good having you on tonight.
Hell yeah.
Cheers. Go Bills.
Of course. Cheers. Enjoy the game today, boys. I know I will. And let's go Bills.
Hell yeah. Love doing this with you guys, man. Go.
It always fires me up. I wish I could play today.
I know. Oh yeah, and we wouldn't be here without you, Fandemonium. I know we didn't get to the comments very often, but we love seeing the participation. You guys rocking it on both live streams throughout the week, and we love you guys. Wouldn't be here without you. And come and win that Andre Reed next week. Come on.
Hell yeah.
Go Swank, you were saying?
Bills!
This is a dangerous group